Thanks for stopping by, and welcome to day 5 in the 12 Days of Christmas Cards series. Today's card is dubbed Fairy Ornaments because I used the Lawn Fawn Fairy Friends set along with elements from the Lawn Fawn Ready Set Snow stamp set to create glass ornaments with little fairy scenes inside them for today's card. I did stamp all the elements first using Memento Tuxedo black ink, and then I created masks for all of them using some full post-it notes. Now for each scene I wanted a different sky. So for this first one, I'm calling her the Cloud Fairy. So she's getting a mottled blue sky, and I'm using tumbled glass and broken china with water, basically using them as a watercolor and just dabbing them around her with my brush dipped in water. No, not anything more complicated than that. And then I do later add some clouds to her using the simple puffy cloud frames die set, also from Lawn Fawn, to finish off the cloud scene. Now this is the snow scene, so I am creating sort of a gray, stormy sky, if you will, behind her and the snowman. And so for this I used weathered wood and stormy sky. Weathered wood is kind of a blue tone and stormy sky is a light gray, and so they work well as a background for snow. Now I'm using the blending tool for this, and I wasn't trying to get a very smooth blend. It didn't really matter because I knew I was going to be adding a lot of snow on top of it, so I wasn't too concerned about getting a smooth blend on that one. Now the last scene is a night sky, and for this I did need a smoother blend, so this takes a longer time to do. And I'm starting out with my favorite combo of night sky. So the first step is chipped sapphire, and this is a very, very deep blue, and I'm trying to get a good base coat going on that, and this takes quite a bit of time, especially since I wanted this to be a pretty dark night with a lot of stars, so I wanted it to be a really, really deep sky. And then I change over to Dusty Concord, and I add some additional shading. And this, like with each progressively darker shade, I go a little bit lighter so as not to just totally block out the previous color. It's just layering color on top rather than trying to obscure the color below. And this is Black Soot. And again, I'm going even lighter with my hand, pressing down even less. And then I go back and blend again with the Dusty Concord a little bit with the Chipped Sapphire to get a nice even look to the sky. Now for the night sky, I am spraying my distress sprayer to get some large water droplets on there, and then I will blot them off with a paper towel. This creates lighter sections on the night sky. I do the same thing with the snowy sky, although it really doesn't work so well with the snowy sky, probably because it's not as dark, so you don't really see it. Then to get a lot of stars, I am taking my distress spray stain in Picket Fence. I'm aiming it below the yellow post-it notes there and spraying it to get that like tiny star effect. For snow on my snow scene, I removed the sprayer from the distress stain, and now I am just flicking it on to get large chunky snowflakes all over my snow scene. And this is a great method for getting some pretty large splatters without too much of a mess. It's a little messy, but that's okay because it's supposed to be kind of a blizzardy effect in this one. Now there's a lot of coloring on this card, and I do not show you the Cloud Fairy just because she's really just herself, the fairy, and some clouds that I color a little bit. But I do show you all of the snow scene fairy and a little bit of the night sky fairy. Now every color that I use for every element is available on the supply list, which is linked below in the video description. So if you want to know the specific colors I'm using for each, like her hair, her skin, her wings, all of that, it is spelled out in the supply list. So you will be able to find that pretty easily, hopefully. Now I like to give my fairies some crazy hair, so they get really kooky, colorful hair. She gets pink hair, the top fairy gets some purple hair, and the bottom fairy gets some crazy red hair, like not natural red, like a really, really Christmassy red. And I do like to make my fairies somewhat multicultural, so each of them gets a slightly different skin tone. And again, I spell out which shades I used for each skin tone, again, on the supply list. Now, generally speaking, with Spectrum Noirs, I tend to pick 3 shades from light to dark, and I base coat with the lightest color, then add some shadows with the second color, and then deepen the shadows with the third color, and then blend it all back out with the lightest color, generally speaking. There may be some exceptions to that, but that's a good rule of thumb, especially if you're a newbie with these. And as you get more and more experience, I think you learn which color combinations of ink work best together. And so I will often go back to the same combinations over and over again. Like my green combination there is the same almost always, especially for like a Christmassy green. I use the same green below on the fairy's dress as I do on the scarf for the snowman. So that's just something that you kind of learn as you use them more and more. And I really like these markers. I think they're super easy to blend with and very, very forgiving. So there are some great instructional videos available from Crafter's Companion, who makes these markers, on ways to color with them. And I also have some additional videos where I go into a little more detail about the technique on how I color. I do like to add texture to hair, so I generally do that by adding in little slashes, little slashy, sketchy marks with darker shades in order to give hair some texture. And then, of course, each one usually gets some pink cheeks. And with their dresses, I do add some additional details that you won't see me do on camera. The Snow Fairy gets a lot of sparkle with some jelly roll pen, and this gal gets some sort of crisscrossy lines with the white Signo gel pen, and then the gal on the cloud scene gets some red and green stripes also. So they do get a little bit of extra detailing after everything is done. Now, a favorite combination of mine for snow is IG1 and IG2, and then for darker snow, or say these roads, I will use IG4 and IG6, or any combination thereof. So depending on how dark it is, I will go more IG4 and IG6. If it's more middle of the road, I'll go IG2 and IG4, and for lighter, like the snowman, I use IG1 and IG2. And this is a favorite combo of mine for green trees, which is DG3 and JG6. So I do wind up cutting these out with some nested dies, and the sizes are also available on the supply list. I did, for the tops of the ornaments and the holders, use the vines and the mushrooms from the Fairy Friends set. I heat embossed the mushroom caps in silver and the vines in gold, and use those to create the hangers for the ornaments. The greeting is from the Ready Set Snow stamp set. It's the Merry Christmas, and I cut it, I sort of trimmed it down, and then I outlined it with my Jelly Roll Stardust clear pen for a little bit of shimmer. The background is a We Are Memory Keepers geometric embossing folder that I embossed some dark green paper with, and then to adhere them all down, I am popping up the snow or the evening fairy or the night fairy with some foam tape, and then I adhere down the other 2 fairies using my ATG gun just flat against that embossed background. The entire panel has been layered onto a 5x7 red mirrored cardstock base. This is a larger card because these little scenes were too big to fit on an A2 size card, so I went larger and went with a 5x7. But sometimes you need to do that, and I think it works out just fine. That is a gold mirrored cardstock circle that I cut out at 1 3/4, and then I layer that with a piece of another circle that is 1 3/8, and I actually created that circle using Festive Berries Distress ink because I didn't have any red cardstock to match the reds in my scene, so I just made my own. So if you haven't done that, that's a great thing to try out. And now I'm just using my glue pen to adhere down the greeting. I will cut off those sections at the top that are overhanging and adhere the entire panel down to a top folding 5x7 card base. And there is the finished card. And here's a good look at the cloud fairy that you didn't really get to see much in the video. And there's the snow fairy, and you can see all of the snow speckles. And then that is the night sky fairy. And there is the overall finished card. If you have not tried coloring with Spectrum Noirs, I think they are easier to work with, at least initially, than Copics. And they are definitely less expensive. So if you're looking for a user-friendly coloring medium and you're a beginner, I think that's a great one to try. Thank you so much for watching. Please come back tomorrow for day 6 in my Christmas card series. As I mentioned, the supplies are linked below, as are the previous day's videos. Thank you so much, and happy holidays!